Special Fathers Network is a dad-to-dad mentoring program for fathers raising children with special needs. We do a number of things to connect dads, and one of them are these bi-weekly Zoom calls. We also host a podcast. They come out on Fridays. The most recent episode was 162, and I'm working on episodes that will air in March and April of 2022. So I'm about 27 or 28 episodes ahead of our editor and producer. We also host a conference, annual conference. And the most important thing that we do is we put the more seasoned dads in the network in contact with the dads that are close to the beginning of their journey, raising a child with special needs. So what I'd like to suggest that we do is make some brief introduction, self-introduction, in no particular order. And then after that, we'll have Shandra make a presentation about special hearts. And then we'll open up to Q&A. So Peter, you happen to be one of the oldest, not by age, but most seasoned Special Fathers Network mentor fathers, because you're one of the very first people that raised your hand 3.5 years ago. So we're gonna let you go first.
Okay, thank you, Dave.
Sure.
Yeah, I live in Barrington, and I've recently divorced. I was the David's other charity, the Illinois Fatherhood Initiative, the Father of the Year Award, which has nothing to do with special needs, but I might be the only one who have ever won that, and my son as well. But yeah, I have a visual processing. I have a visual disability, so I can drive and all that, but I've had 13 different eye operations, including detached retina just a month and a half ago. And and I've been a part of Mom number 24 on the Special Fathers Network, the podcast. I have 2 children. One has recovered from severe autism, and one is now recovered from basically severe visual processing disorder. She couldn't read at age 8, and now she's reading 50 words a minute at age 11. So that's it for me.
Well, Peter, thank you for joining us. And that is a whole other conversation, because you don't really hear very often recovering from autism. So we're not going to dive into that because that's not tonight's topic, but it's an amazing story. And for those that are interested, it is podcast number 24 with the Special Fathers Network Dad to Dad podcast. Okay, Jeremy, why don't you make a brief self-introduction?
Thank you, David. My name is Jeremy Credlow. I am the custodial grandfather and guardian of Kylie, who is almost 13 years old at this point, who suffered severe brain damage at birth from a loss of oxygen. So at almost 13 years old, she's blind, has seizures, cannot speak, cannot sit up or roll over unassisted, and is total care. And I've been caring for her since she was 8 months old, which has, apropos to this topic, resulted in some dating challenges and relationship challenges that are kind of unique to that area. I live in Seattle now, although I moved out here for about 8 years ago from the Midwest, and I absolutely miss only 2 things about the Midwest. One of those is lightning bugs, and the other is those thunderstorms that you were talking about over Lake Michigan, and those beautiful lightning strikes on summer days. It was just amazing. So yeah, it's one of those 2 things that I miss. So thanks a lot for having me today.
Well, usually when somebody says they're from the Chicago area or the Midwest and they're missing something, they always refer to the cold weather. And maybe in a sarcastic way, they miss the cold weather. But glad you'd be with us. And Jeremy, you have an amazing story as well, raising these granddaughters as a single parent, like you just described. And I don't remember your podcast number. I'd have to cheat and look it up, but you probably remember. What number is it?
I don't. I thought it was 156, but that seems aggressive at this point. I'll look it up.
Okay. Well, we've come to the star of the show, and that is Shandra Cubin. We met this past year. You spoke at our virtual conference back in May, and you've, I think, created something that has increasing appeal. There are way too many single parents raising children with special needs. In most cases, we think of the moms who are doing whatever they can to advocate for their kids and find themselves in a divorce or maybe never married for that matter. And I just love the work that you do, and we're thrilled to have you tonight. So why don't you make a brief personal introduction, what you do outside of the Special Hearts program, and then we'll get into the Special Hearts, and we can go back and forth with a little Q&A if that helps you with your presentation, or you could just make a straight out presentation. So a brief self-introduction. The Zoom stage is yours.
Thank you so much, David, as always. So my son has hyperlexia 3, which is an interesting diagnosis. It's kind of along the lines of Asperger's or autism, and it's been a challenge, which is what brought us to Special Hearts, definitely. I also have a younger daughter that's 4, and she's such a good girl. She just loves him so much, and she's been such a patient baby through everything. To be honest with you, we're actually in Arizona right now for treatment from one of his doctors out here, and he is just the love of my life. He's my everything. But as you guys well know, it's been a challenge. Certainly, it's a challenge every day to get him through little things that other parents take for granted. And, that puts a strain on everyone. That puts a strain on me. That puts a strain on family. And it certainly puts a strain on relationships and marriage. And that's where, Special Hearts was born from.
Excellent. Well, I'm so glad you can join us. And why don't you tell us what the sort of origin story was? Where did the idea for Special Hearts come from? And how has it evolved, and where is it today?
Well, I was actually doing a little gardening with my little guy outside, and I was thinking to myself, gosh, if I had to be on the dating scene again, wouldn't it be nice if I could meet somebody or multiple people that would understand the situation that I live in every single day, that I don't have to explain to them when my son is having a seizure, or when we have to go to therapy, or when we're at a doctor's appointment, or we have to fly out of state to see somebody, a specialist or whatnot. And it was just one of those things that I thought, gosh, I really don't think that there's a dating site out there that caters to parents that are going through, what I could be going through, what so many parents are going through. And so I ran it by my husband, and him being the serial entrepreneur and, very well versed in business, very successful in his endeavors always, asked me, hey, have you done the market research? Why don't you give me what you know so far? What kind of research have you done? What do you think is out there? Do you think that we can take this somewhere? Give me a business proposal, basically, and I'll think about it. And then, we'll talk about it. And so sure enough, I went online and I checked, and they didn't have anything out there that was, comparable to what we're doing with Special Hearts. And I ran it by my husband with a little bit more information. And he said, yeah, I think this is a great idea. Let's dive in and see if this is something that we can create. And so, never having created an app or being in tech in any way, it was a little rough start, but we have a great company and we have great marketing, and it's taking off. And a lot of the times the parents just like to have someone that's there to listen. There's been plenty of times when we've taken phone calls with parents that just wanted somebody to talk to, that understood what was going on, that understood the situation that they were in. And so that's where we really get the motivation to continue and to make this just a global platform for people to join and find friends and find loved ones. And, hopefully lots of marriages and lots of relationships come of this, and lots of friendships, but it's just a great way to connect with like-minded people that are in similar situations.
Yeah, well, I love the concept. And give us some numbers or demographics. Is it mostly women, mostly men? Is there an age range? What the number of children do these single parents have? Do you have many statistics?
Just from what we've gathered, it's kind of all over the place, which is nice to see. It's a lot of different parents from different backgrounds, multiple children, sometimes just, just only children, multiple children with disabilities, parents that are divorced, parents that are separated, just single parents that have never been married that are looking for somebody. And it's kind of all over the place right now, which is nice. We're about half and half with men and women right now, and it all depends on where we're kind of targeting our marketing for the moment, but we're trying to make sure that it's even and just collect as many people as we can along the way.
Okay. So if somebody's interested in learning more about the website or how it works, where would they go and what would the initial step be?
Well, we're actually creating a website separate of specialhearts.com, or I'm sorry, Special Hearts app, to give parents a little bit more information as to what we're all about and what our mission is and where we're kind of at right now. So we're in the process of creating an entirely separate website to give them additional information. But if you go to specialhearts.com, you can read about what we do. You can kind of read our mission statement and where we're at with charities, what our beliefs are, and what we're trying to accomplish in the dating community.
So it's primarily an app. It's like a handheld phone-based or tablet-based app that
It is.
somebody signs on to. So
Correct.
I don't know a lot about these dating apps, so I'm not the best person to be asking these questions. But I know that there are dozens, if not hundreds and hundreds, of dating websites and apps out there. And some of them are geared toward men, some of them are geared toward women. And I'm wondering, what is it that distinguishes your app other than, you're obviously trying to attract parents, single parents raising children with special needs. But again, when somebody downloads the app, what level of information are they required to share? And then how does it work, as far as the connections being made?
Well, we tried to make it as easy as possible. We wanted it to be very user friendly. So basically, just name, you can put in location, and from there, that'll open things up and you can kind of check out to see who's on there and whether or not you want to join as a member, a VIP membership. And so we've really tried to just create something that's very easy to log in, very easy to find. We're on Google Play Store. We're currently working on getting us on the Apple Store to be able to download things just easily, quickly, and we try to make it as user-friendly as possible right now.
So somebody downloads the app, they put some personal information in, their name, they want to put their city, maybe some information about themselves, their background, whether it's educational or work experience, the number of children they have. Some people wear their information on their sleeves, and other people are quite buttoned up or confidential about their information. And you did make reference to a VIP membership. So are there actually different levels of membership? And if so, what's the pricing structure?
So right now there's two different memberships. There's free membership and then there's VIP membership. VIP membership allows you to communicate with other members. And that's very similar to Tinder or to Match. Normally you would have to pay a membership fee to be able to communicate with other people on the site. And from there, you can talk, you can email, you can exchange information. And the reason why we wanted to keep it at $10 for 90 days is because we know that parents with special needs children typically are maxed out when it comes to expenses. And we wanted to keep it modest, but at the same time, we wanted to be able to get back to charities, which was something that was very important to us because we know the financial strain that a lot of us go through. And so membership fees also go to different charities. And of course, the bigger our community is, the more revenue we'll have and the more that we can give back, which is something that's very near and dear to my heart. We would just like to be able to help as many families as we can. And that's, again, another driving force for creating Special Hearts and having it just take off.
Yeah, well, I love the model and the fact that it's not really meant to generate revenue in the traditional sense, just see how much money you can make, if you will. How fast can you grow? How big can you grow? But there is a philanthropic aspect to what it is that you're doing. So it doesn't sound like a very high hurdle right? $10 a month for 3 months, $30. That's not a very big investment, for somebody who's sort of busy. Maybe they're working, maybe they're not working. But the commonality is that they all have a child or children with special needs. So what happens after the 90 days? How much is it?
So then we would actually keep it the same, another $10 for 90 days. I know that we were going to change the pricing structure at the beginning of 2022, but right now, while we're kind of getting up and running again, we wanted to keep it as modest as possible to just, yeah, we wanted, of course, just like any other dating website, we wanted to weed out those that weren't serious about things, and we wanted to make sure that, we vet everybody, because it is kind of a specialty site, so to speak. And so we wanted to make sure that, our members are really who they say they are and are in it for the right reasons. And so again, modest right now. Pricing structure will change come 2022, but as of right now, that's where we're at. Every 3 months you get billed again for another $10, but we don't automatically bill. We like to send out a notice asking if it's okay if they want to continue with their membership. If not, we don't set it on an auto bill. If they give us permission, then certainly we run it through and they're good to go again for another 90 days.
Okay. Well, that seems like a very modest pricing structure. And I'm not going to give you business advice, but I think you should be charging more. You didn't ask for advice, so
I'll always take your advice, David.
yeah. And the $10 a month for a few months just is an easy way to get people in, and hopefully there's a value, right, to maintaining their membership or to participate in the community. And I don't know that you have to get them over the head in a heavy way, but it just seems like do yourself a favor with all the work and time and energy that you're putting into this and your desire to support more charities, right? But maybe in a startup phase, you just want to build your base, and then you can evaluate, if you want to change the monthly amount or quarterly amount. So how many months or how many years now has the app been active?
So it's been about 2 years that we've been active. I'd say in the past 6 months, we've collected several hundred members, which has been fantastic. But these things tend to grow organically. We've worked with some great marketing companies, and we have great marketing people behind us. But again, these things are, kind of slow to grow, especially in our community. And so that's where we're at right now. About 2 years, we're up and running. Everything's fully functional. Again, like I said, we're on Google Play Store. We're soon to be on Apple, and so it's working, but it's slow. It's a slow process.
So I'm wondering if you can share an anecdotal story or two from one or more of your members, not by name, but just by the circumstances. What has their experience been?
It's been interesting. We have so many members with different backgrounds and different stories, and very unique and at times heart-wrenching. But we have had a few people contact us and request that their profiles be removed because they had found somebody in Special Hearts that they wanted to start a relationship with, and they were very excited about that, and they were very thankful for our service. And so that's very exciting. And again, that just keeps the motivation to keep going and continue to build and build and build, because it's just awesome to receive those emails, personal emails that somebody has written saying, hey, thank you guys so much. We definitely want to give this relationship a shot, and we appreciate what you guys are doing.
Oops. I think that's fabulous. I think that's the end game, which is everybody who comes to the site, you'd like to think they'll find somebody or get what they were looking for, and that there wouldn't be an ongoing need to maintain the app. There's got to be some reluctance, right? Skepticism about joining. And I'm wondering, what do you think the primary objection or skepticism is? And what is your response to that?
I don't know. I think maybe, I know for me, maybe something that I would have a problem with joining is maybe feeling that I already deal with this enough as is, and perhaps it might be nice to just forget about it for the moment. However, again, back to myself, if I were in that situation, I would feel more comfortable with somebody that would be supportive and empathetic to my situation. But I think maybe sometimes, it might be difficult to kind of take your situation and bring it along for your dating experiences as well. So I would see that as maybe being one of the issues as to why people don't follow through with membership or retention.
That's fair. So we're fortunate to have a couple of the seasoned Special Fathers Network mentor fathers, both of which are single dads. And I'm wondering, Jeremy or Peter, if you'd like to share some experiences that you've had, if you've been dating, what sort of some of the challenges have been in your situation, and if you have a question that you'd like to run by Shandra, just from your own perspective as well. So Jeremy, I'll let you go first.
Sure, thanks, David. So I've had custodial guardianship of Kylie for 12 years. And in that time, I've been in several, I'll call them long-term relationships, even though they generally have lasted between a year and 2 years. And what I have found is that, generally speaking, the women that I've dated are not adverse to getting involved in a relationship with me, with knowing that, I have custody of Kylie and all of the life changes or the lifestyle that entails. But that over time, the reality that situation is never going to change starts becoming a little bit more evident. And what I mean by that is, for me anyway, I'm not looking necessarily for a partner who I'm going to marry and spend the rest of my life with, that I want to move in together. I'm not adverse to the concept. It's just not where I'm at right now in terms of relationships. I want to date for a while. I want to find out if that's the right fit. But what ends up happening over the course of a year to 2 years is that the women that I date end up finding out that there's a point in time where I can't spend more and more time with them in a given month, right? I have between Kylie's therapies and her appointments and, my full-time job and running my household and all the volunteer activities that I do, and spending time focusing on the things that I want in my own life. So being able to kind of take some time off to the side to just do what I want to do. I don't have a lot of free time. I spend that time with the person that I'm dating, but over the course of a year, that time doesn't suddenly become more and more. I don't have, it starts out about every other weekend, I have some free time. And a year later, about every other weekend, I have some free time. And I don't have any other places in my life where I can suddenly create more free time without sacrificing either something that Kylie needs or something that I need for myself. And that's not really the natural arc of a relationship or the expectations going into a relationship. Usually their expectations are that you're gonna end up spending more and more time together, and you're going to get to a point where you're talking to each other and seeing each other every day or close to every day, and you're spending your weekends together, and then eventually move into, whatever that next phase is from there, whether it's marriage or cohabitation or whatever. But I don't really have that. It just doesn't, that free time doesn't exist. And unless I'm willing and able to just kind of jumpstart that, hey, we're going to live together, we're going to get married, there's really nowhere to go. And that for most women, and rightfully so, that doesn't have a very long shelf life in a relationship. So I get to a year and a half in a relationship, and we both realize that it's not going to work. It's not going to be what we want it to be over time. So that's one big challenge. And the second big challenge is the very first time that I explain my life. And some women are just, they think that that's wonderful that I'm doing that. And, you know, oh, you're an amazing human being. And then there's a significant portion of them that just shut down, and they're like, I don't want that. I can't see myself being involved in that, not because they're bad people, but just because that's, for lack of a better term, it's a lot of baggage, right? Like I'm bringing a lot into the relationship that revolves around responsibility and some pretty significant challenges for the future. You know, I'm going to be changing diapers until I die. That's not necessarily something that somebody, a potential partner, wants in their life. There's not that natural progression of, oh, your kid's 8 or 12 or whatever. They're going to start spending more time with friends. They're going to go off to college. They're going to move out of the house. And then we're going to start traveling the world together and all of that. That long-term future on the horizon of what this relationship could be doesn't really exist. It's always going to exist only in what the current state is. And that's a pretty big deal breaker, like I said, rightfully so, for a lot of women.
Yeah, well, Jeremy, thanks for sharing. One of the things I admire about you is your openness and authenticity to talk about things. Let's face it, most guys would feel uncomfortable talking about this topic, right? About dating and some of the challenges that they've experienced. I don't want to say it's taboo, but it's just, you know, something that, you know, most men are not, I guess, self-confident enough about to discuss openly. So thank you again for sharing. And I'm wondering, in the circumstance that you've described, if the Special Hearts app, the way it's designed or exists, is something that would help you overcome that second hurdle that you were talking about, so that, you know, you're not going to spend a lot of time or invest a lot of time. You're only going to be sort of coming in contact with people that, you know, would understand and maybe have a firsthand understanding, you know, from their own personal perspective, which raised another question, Shandra, which I didn't ask you earlier, which is, if you're attracting single parents, men who have children with special needs, as well as women who have children with special needs, then they're equals, right? What Jeremy was describing is sort of the imbalance that exists, right? Dating somebody who doesn't have a child with special needs. And I'm wondering if that creates or poses an additional challenge, because both parents, while they can identify and relate to each other, you know, they've got ongoing responsibilities like Jeremy was just talking about. And I'm wondering what's been your experience to date when both parents have a child with special needs, Chandra?
Well, I think there's an understanding going in. And so Jeremy and I spoke about it at your conference. I think there's a lot of people that have sympathy, but not empathy. And there's a big difference when it comes to taking care of your special needs child. You know, you have to have somebody with empathy that understands what you're going through. And so say Jeremy met somebody wonderful and she has, you know, a child with a disability or something else going on. She's not going to expect that level of, I don't want to say commitment because it's not commitment, but that time commitment from Jeremy, nor would he expect that of her. So they go in saying, hey, listen, we can love each other. We can be supportive. We have a great relationship. We know that this isn't going to be conventional, but you know what? We can make this work because you understand you're here to help me and vice versa. And we get it. And we can come together at the end of the day. And we know that we're there for each other and we love each other. And that's just kind of our unique relationship and our unique life. You know, I have a unique life with my son, and it's a challenge and it's interesting. And, you know, he's my everything. And as of right now, he's my focus and he would be my focus in a relationship. But I don't think that I would rule out having a relationship in the future with somebody with another special needs child. In fact, like I said, I would feel more comfortable saying, hey, listen, you know, this is kind of where we're at this week. And my son's having kind of it's been a tough week for us. And, you know, I just want somebody there to say, hey, listen, honey, I understand. I get it. I'm there. What do you need from me? Can I help you? You know, don't worry about the date that we missed. Don't worry about this. Hey, let me just go to the doctors with you. I understand that, you know, you have to travel out of state, but that's okay. We're not going to make it a vacation. I'm going to be there to help you through the airport. I'm going to be there to help you with your son. And let me get things together for you. And, you know, and you're there for my child and I'm there for yours. And so, you know, they kind of already have that understanding going in that it won't be a conventional relationship, that it's going to be unique. And I would hope that they would be able to hold on to that and make it work.
Yeah, well, thanks for explaining. It's a little bit clearer to me now. Thank you. So what I'm looking for in the future, Chandra, is a story, and I'm hoping it is, you know, one that you can identify as one of those successes from the Special Hearts website or app, and it's the what I'll call his, hers, and ours. So these two individuals have come together vis-a-vis your app, and they've made a long-term commitment to each other. And then instead of just being satisfied with each having their own special needs children, they've also had a child between the two of them. So obviously you don't have to come back to me ASAP with that story, but I just want to plant that seed. And from what I'm thinking of, from my lips to God's ears, I'm hoping that you'll be able to share an anecdotal story like that sometime in the future.
That would be amazing.
Okay, Peter, I know that you had indicated that you divorced, and that's actually this past year. So everything's sort of fresh, you know, as far as dividing your household and the joint custody arrangement and everything that you have. But I'm wondering if you can share any insights as it relates to your own circumstances like Jeremy did.
I don't have quite the eloquence of Jeremy, and I don't have, you know, my ex is still living with me. The house is going up for sale next week or 2 weeks. So no, but I'd have a lot of person I knew in Chicago was going to create a dating website for people with disabilities. So it's kind of similar to what you were doing there, but it's adults with disabilities. They were going to create a dating website, and I don't know what happened with that because I didn't follow up on it. But there's a lot of it's a very common situation because you know, 1 out of 5 kids has a IEP, and the divorce rate amongst parents with children with disabilities is 80%. So I run as David knows, I'm the administrator of the local Barrington area special needs site. There's 150 members almost. And I also help start a couple other Facebook groups that have some thousands of people. So I could market to some of your website or your app. And I have a lot of, after 10 years of this, I have a lot of people following me and Facebook friends. I have like 400 Facebook friends, but I've only met like 25 of them. So I'd be happy to help out your marketing and just do it, you know, put it on some of my Facebook groups. And there's a lot of people that I know that are in a similar situation. You know, I can't really state my current experience right now because there is none. So I don't really have much more to add.
Peter,
Yeah.
thanks for sharing. Shandra, I had a question that came to mind as Peter was making reference to this other person or organization. And at the very beginning, I had emphasized for those that might be listening to this, on our YouTube channel, that this is for single parents raising a child with special needs, not for the young adults who actually have special needs themselves. It's not a dating app for adults or young adults with special needs. And I'm wondering, when you and Rich were going about creating this, if you've given any thought to that path, or including another aspect to the site, to the app, that would actually appeal to those young adults as well. Obviously a different market altogether, but I'm wondering if you contemplated that as well.
As a matter of fact, we have. We have had several people join that have had a disability, and they've asked, hey, is it okay if we join? And I said, absolutely, it's okay. And so Rich and I kind of threw that idea around about either having a sister site, from Special Hearts, or creating something entirely different that would just be for adults with disabilities of any kind, and see if we could create that, and kind of piggyback off the success of Special Hearts. So that is absolutely something that we've looked into, that we would love to do. Right now we're trying to just build up this one, but absolutely. And like I said, we have had a few people join that have been adults with disabilities, and we've given it, of course, the okay, absolutely, if you want to join and see if this is a good fit for you, then by all means. So absolutely, yeah, that's something that we're looking into.
Okay.
Well, David,
good to
just
know.
as a statistic that I know, 1 out of 17 people are on disability of working age, which most people are shocked by that number, but it's true. 1 out of 17 people between 18 and whatever 60 are on disability, which is quite a big number.
Yeah, well, that's frighteningly large. I agree with you.
Yeah.
I've heard different statistics in different age groups, but
It's like 10 million people.
yeah.
It's
One of the things
frighteningly large unless you're looking for marketing opportunities or a customer base.
Yeah, well, one of the thoughts that I have, frequent thoughts that I have, is that each of us is just a heartbeat or a step away from experiencing disability, right? Life is very fragile. And I know that what brings a lot of our dads together within the Special Fathers Network is having a child, a naturally born child with special needs. That's autism, Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, one of the 7,000 plus rare diseases, and other things, being blind, being deaf, missing a limb or limbs. That category of disability isn't just special needs, but it's, like you said, both said, it's a very large category. And it's like anything else. You, I think, have to be focused or define, who you are. You don't want to, try to appeal to everybody, but you want to carve out a niche for yourself, and you want to be the best or one of the best in that niche. And I'm wondering, Jeremy or Peter, if you have a question or feedback for what Chandra is doing.
Not a question, but more of a statement, kind of feedback. I mean, one of the things that I love about what Shandra is doing is it really alludes to your second point, where you, David, talked earlier about, does it take away that second dating scenario where somebody just shuts down when they find out about your lifestyle? And I think that that's very true about Special Hearts. It's it's the only place that I've found where I know that the women that I connect with are going to have at least a similar life experience. And while some of it is going to be different, it's not going to be so markedly different that they don't have the ability to empathize, they can't understand at all, which is great and much needed. I have definitely struggled in the dating scene with that second scenario of women just shutting down, to the point of, this last weekend, I went on a first date with a woman, and the date was wonderful. I bought us tickets to an escape room. We went and high pressure stakes to try to get out of the rooms in 60 minutes and solve all the puzzles. And we worked well together and we laughed and we had a really good time, a good enough time that we went out to dinner together afterwards, unplanned, and we talked and we had a really nice time over dinner. And the subject of Kylie and my life came up and we talked about that a little bit. And her question to me was, what does that look like in terms of a relationship? I'm sure you've been through this and you understand what that means. What does that really look like? And I had to explain to her basically what I talked about earlier. There comes a point in time where I'm not going to have any more time to give than what is available. And I could see her shut down. In that moment, I knew that there would not be a second date, regardless of the fact that the rest of the date had gone so well, because she could not understand my lifestyle. She could not put herself in that space. She didn't have kids also, so she didn't even have that type of life experience to compare it to, of, you know, the challenges of being a single parent. Being a single parent of a child with severe disabilities or any disabilities is exponentially more time consuming and difficult than being a single parent of a child who's neurotypical and isn't disabled. So that's a big leap for her. And clearly she's like, I really appreciate who you are as a person. I really enjoyed our time together. Goodbye. You know, that was the message that she was sending very clearly. So what Chandra's doing, I think, is it's beautiful in the way that I don't have to go through that type of very, very difficult date ever again if I were to just meet people through that app. I know that those women know, they understand. They've been there, they've done that, they realize the challenges. And Shandra, to your point, they're going in with a different set of expectations about what the relationship will look like. They're going in knowing that it may not be traditional, I think is the word that you used, if I remember correctly, it's not going to look like that, and that's okay. And so we can modify those expectations. I'm not going to find that on, Match.com or Tinder or any of those. I'm going to go on 25 dates and there will be 1 second date and no third dates.
Well, Jeremy, thanks for sharing and emphasizing that point. So the way I think about it is that the participants in this app, by definition, men and women, are sort of pre-screened in themselves, really. Mm-hmm. And I think that's one of the real value, the ads that Special Hearts is providing. And it just dawned on me that an additional category, and I don't know if you can speak to this, Shandra, in addition to single moms raising a child with special needs, single dads raising a child with special needs, is the individuals, and I hope I don't misstate this, mostly females who are therapists, all different types of therapists, speech therapists, mm-hmm. occupational therapists. They get it, right? They're right. Working with these kids on an ongoing basis. And I'm wondering if you can share any insight about, not actually being a parent of a special needs child, but somebody who is close enough to the world of special needs from a therapy perspective and their interest in what it is that Special Hearts.
Absolutely. We've actually had a couple of people join that have worked in the community, that have been therapists or teachers. And we also really try to market to people that understand the situations that these parents are in, say, therapists and special needs teachers and whatnot. And we do have a few people that have joined that are willing to kind of take on that type of relationship and that type of responsibility, and understand that it's not going to be oh, you know, it's going to be a little bit different. And one thing that I will say is that my grandmother was a school teacher and she worked in special needs for 25 years until she retired out. And she just loved her kids more than anything in the world. She was with them all the time. She would stay with them at the hospitals when things got bad. And I never really had an appreciation for what she went through as a teacher and how much she loved these children so much. And now with my own son, you know, God bless her, I understand, you know, the love that she had for these children. And I think that my grandmother would have been, you know, in her younger day, would have been the perfect model for somebody that didn't have a special needs child, but is willing to kind of take on that experience with a parent that, you know, is in that situation themselves.
Yeah, well, thanks for sharing. That's one of the things we have in common. Not my grandmother, but my mom was actually a Chicago public school teacher. And she spent a third of her 38-year career, the last third actually, teaching special needs in Chicago public schools. And you have to have an extraordinary amount of patience. In fact, the joke in our family, if I can call it that, was that she started in second grade, she went down to first grade, and then she finished her career with special education. So this woman was a patron saint when it comes to patience. So, and she probably got a lot of training with me and my younger brother for that matter. So there's I guess another question that comes to mind, which is, are there any other categories, like when somebody signs in, that people would sort of slot themselves in? And let me just mention one. I've interviewed a number of dads whose spouse had passed away. So they're not single parents, because single parents suggest that there's another parent out there, right, to the child, but a solo parent, right, which means there is nobody else, right? The other biological parent is totally out of the picture. And I'm wondering if you can speak to that at all.
I think that we do have several parents on that are widowed. I can't tell you the exact number. However, we don't have any specialty categories where they can find somebody else in that situation, but I know that we do have a few people that are in that situation that are looking for somebody else. But I mean, that's certainly something to keep in mind. Again, we kind of wanted to keep it as simple and easy as possible. We studied a lot of the other dating apps to see how they work and how they run and what keeps them running smoothly. So we haven't broken it down into categories like that, but I mean, that's certainly something that could work in the future, definitely.
Yeah, well, just something to think about, because and I don't know that it's the most important concept or aspect, but having gotten to know these individuals like I have over the last few years, it's a different experience, right? When your spouse passes away, you grieve the loss of your spouse, and you still have the responsibility of raising not just a child, or in the context of special needs, you still have a child or children with special needs. And I don't know if it would make a huge difference, but it's certainly worth exploring. It's just, you know, a sliver of the bigger piece of what we're talking about. So, anyway,
David, I'd like to interject just a quick note.
Sure.
You know, before I became disabled, I worked for 20 years in quality assurance, helped build the first allstate.com, getting your quotes. And I also worked with the iExplorer, which got bought up by National Geographic. It's a travel website, as well as, you know, multiple other companies' websites. So I'd be happy to look at some of your applications and see if, you know, if they have some bugs or whatever. I seem to be able to, if I have a knack for finding, you know, some glitches or maybe some improvements. I'd be happy to do that for you, Shandra.
Thank you.
And I have a lot of experience with that. So, and I, I'll be happy to share your site to the people in my groups. And I'm sure they'll get a good response.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Any help, any feedback is much appreciated. Thank you. Thank you, Jeremy and Peter, both so much, and David, of course.
Yeah, well, my pleasure to help shine a little light on the good work that you're doing. And I'm wondering, before we wrap up, if Peter or Jeremy, you have a thought you want to share, and then I'll turn it back to Shandra.
So I'm a little bit on your concept of, adding widowed or solo parents to the mix. One of the things that I think is challenging enough without that in this space is it's already very difficult to find people who understand. And so that potential dating pool is already a little bit small when it comes to who are the women that I would be matched with. And so adding additional filters to that makes it a little bit more problematic. And, especially if I were a solo parent in terms of, a spouse who had passed away, I might have 2 matches or 5 matches. And that can create artificial barriers where we already have a significant number of barriers when it comes to dating. And so that can be challenging. You see it on.
I would agree with that too. But one thing you could do is just have I haven't seen your site yet, but it's like, oh, you have single, widowed, divorced, as one of the options of status.
Yeah, to where it's keyed off of, you understand where someone is coming from, but it doesn't necessarily filter out potential. Like, you can only be matched with someone who has this same experience. So, but yeah, but thank you, Shandra, for what you're doing there, because it is much needed. And I think it will help a lot of people who are in that space of having this very, this can be a lonely journey. If you are a single person, it can be very challenging, which, personally, I'm okay with being alone and focusing on the things that I want in my life. But I know that some people are not okay with that. And they're in a space where they have a child with a disability, and that's a barrier to them moving forward in the way that they want to in a relationship in their life. And that can unfortunately lead to them resenting their child or resenting the choices they've made to support their child. And that's a terrible place to be. It's a terrible position to be in for people. It's very unhealthy for everyone involved. So you're creating some bridges and some connections, which is for people who really are looking for that, which is great. And
Thank you.
Really just pointed feedback. Don't compare your app to Tinder. It's nothing like Tinder. It's the anti-Tinder. These are,
yes.
it's about people making real connections who in a very real way, which is absolutely the opposite of Tinder.
Absolutely. And that's one thing why we, really try and vet everyone that comes through, because we just don't want it to be some fast, flashy dating site where, it's just you swipe or however you do it. And, we just, we wanted it with meaning. And again, we wanted it with meaning. We wanted people to make meaningful connections. And on top of that, we wanted to certainly give back to this community because, I know what it's like, the financial strain. And so it makes me feel good to be able to, connect people and in turn give back as well.
Shandra, I'm going to let you have the last word. Is there anything else you'd like to say before we wrap up, and make sure that you include where people can find the Special Hearts app?
Well, thank you, of course, to you, David, always. Thank you, Jeremy and Peter. And our app, you can find it and download it at special-hearts.com. It's very easy to download. You can also find it on Google Play Store and soon on Apple a store as well, and it's a pretty easy app to download, and hopefully everyone that downloads it finds some success.
Chandra, thank you again on behalf of the Special Fathers Network for the work that you do, advocating for parents, single parents raising children with special needs. As a reminder, the Special Fathers Network is a dad-to-dad mentoring program for fathers raising children with special needs. The website you can go to is 21stcenturydads.org. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Special Fathers Network Dad's Zoom call on special needs and dating. I'm hoping that you'll be able to check out some of the other Zoom calls that we've done at the 21st Century Dads YouTube channel. Thanks again. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you.
Thanks, David.